Ladies and gentlemen, today we learned about two new forms. We learned about slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and we also learned about point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Now the reason why we call the first one slope-intercept form is because they give us a slope. You could see it right there, and they also give you a intercept. You could see the y-intercept, which is the b value. Okay, so when it's in this form, when you have y all by itself, like for example, let's say you had y equals 2/3 x plus 1, then you don't have to do any math. Like, I don't know if you remember from last week where I said, oh, find the y-intercept. Oh, to find the y-intercept, you have to set x equal to 0 and solve. But the truth is, if it's in slope-intercept form, then you could just look at the last number, and that's your y-intercept value. It's going to cross the y-axis at 1. So technically, you could use this to graph it. The intercept is 1, and the slope is 2/3. But we're not even graphing on this section. What we're doing here on this section is writing equations. So all we need to remember is y equals mx plus b. Point slope form is precisely that. When they give you a point, and what do I mean by a point? I'm talking about a coordinate x and y value, and you'd probably call this 1, 1. So notice, here's your x1 value and here's your y1 value, and they also give you a slope, which is right here, the m value. So it's that simple, guys. Point slope is when they give you a point, which is right here, x1, y1, and they give you a slope, which is right here. Slope-intercept is when they give you a slope, right there, and they give you a y-intercept, which is going to go out here by itself. So let's use that knowledge to look at this question, which was the last part of our notes today, which we didn't get to. So it says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. That's the above one up here, y equals mx plus b. It says, of the line that passes through 4, 2 and is perpendicular to y equals negative 2x plus 3. Now, we also learned about two very important details. Parallel lines have the same exact slope. Parallel lines have equal m values, the same slope. And likewise, we also learned today that perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So again, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal m values. Okay, what does that mean? It means you change the sign and flip the fraction. So with these two bits of information, plus the forms that we learned today, we will be able to answer this question right here, where it's asking us to write an equation. So let's zoom in a little here. It says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line passing through 4, 2 and is perpendicular to. So you got to take what they give you to find out what you need to do. So right here we have a point, and indirectly we have a slope. They tell us that it's perpendicular to this guy. Now when they say that your line is perpendicular to this guy, they're really telling you the slope. However, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Now, what does that mean? If you look up here, change the sign and flip the fraction. Again, move that down. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal m values. So this m value that you see here is a negative 2. Now, if my equation was parallel, then it would be the same exact slope. But it's not parallel, it's perpendicular, which means I need to change the sign and flip the fraction. You're probably thinking, what fraction? All right, there it is. Now you can see the fraction. So indirectly, they're giving you the m value that you need, which is really a positive 1/2, ladies and gentlemen. So m is 1/2. Now they also give you a x and y value. Let's check out that x and y value. That's the coordinate 4 and 2. Okay, so what do we really have here? We have a point that they gave us, which is 4, 2. And they gave us the slope indirectly 1/2. Now we know that point slope form, if you have a point and a slope, you'll be able to write it in this form up here. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So what I would do is start out by first writing this whole form without the x1, y1, or m. So I'm going to write it with blank spots. Check it out. There it is. Y minus y1 is going to go right here. So what's y1? Here's y1. It's going to be a 2. So I'm going to put a 2 right there. And the m value that belongs right here, we found out was, let me zoom out a little, we found out that indirectly they told us that the m value was 1/2. So 1/2 goes right there, okay? And for the x1 value that we see over here, the x1 value happens to be 4. So you could just type in a 4 right in there, or write in a 4 right there. And now you have your equation in what we call point-slope form. Now, if they just said, if they just said write an equation, right? Right here it says write an equation. If it just said write any equation, you would be done, because you already wrote the equation that has the slope that's perpendicular to this guy, which means 1/2, and that passes through that point. We have it right here. This is an equation in point-slope form. However, they are telling us that they want it in slope-intercept form. So they want us to change it to y equals mx plus b. Where is it at? It's over here. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So they want us to change it to y equals mx plus b. So what we're going to do is change it to y equals mx plus b. How am I going to do that? Well, you could distribute the 1/2, say 1/2 times x, that's going to be a 1/2 x. 1/2 times -4, it's going to be a -2. Then you bring down the equal sign, bring down the -2, bring down the y. And all you got to do now is get y by itself. So I'm going to get rid of this -2 by subtracting, or actually adding 2, cancels out. What you do to one side, you do to the other. It also happens to cancel out. So you end up with y equals 1/2 x. And ladies and gentlemen, that's your slope-intercept form equation, y equals 1/2 x. Let's try one more. Let's go a little faster through this one. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line passing through -6, -6, and is parallel to this guy. So when they say is parallel to, they're indirectly telling you that your slope of your line will be the same exact thing, 4/3. Now, if it would have said perpendicular, then it would be -3/4, a negative reciprocal of your slope. But they say it's parallel, and we know that parallel lines have the same exact slope. So let's take the information they give us, an x and a y, and let's use the point-slope form equation, which is y minus y1, which happens to be -6, as you see up there on the coordinate, equals m, which is 4/3, parenthesis, x minus x1, which happens to also be -6, as you see up there. Now again, if it didn't say to write it in slope-intercept form, if it just said write an equation, there's the equation, you got it, you're done. Change this to red right there, stay consistent. But because they specifically tell you to write it in slope-intercept form, they want y equals mx plus b. So you could work this out. Let's change the minus to plus, and we could either distribute the 4/3 or multiply everything by 3 to temporarily get rid of the fraction. Now I'm going to distribute the 4/3. It's pretty easy to do. There's an invisible 1 underneath the 6. So when you distribute 4/3 times x, that'll be 4/3 x. And when you distribute 4/3 times 6, you have to multiply the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom, and you will end up with a plus 24, 4 times 6 is 24, over 3 times 1, which is 3. And on the left side, the equal sign comes down, you have y plus 6. Ladies and gentlemen, we almost have it in slope-intercept form. On the right side, the 24 over 3, that really is 8, okay? So 24 divided by 3 really is 8 right there. And you're going to have y plus 6 equals 4/3 x. Let me subtract 6 on both sides, and I'm done. My equation is y equals 4/3 x plus 2. That's my final slope-intercept form equation. And that's what they're asking for, a slope-intercept form equation. I hope this helps.